Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, here we are again. Alex and I, we're so happy to be with you. And we are going to bring you some amazing information this week, as we always do, so that you can be unleashed and unstoppable. And man, Alex, let's dive in. Are we living unleashed and unstoppable lives? We get to ask ourselves that every day. Are we doing it? Tell me, Alex.
Well, and when you say that, my question is also, have you defined what your unleashed and unstoppable life gets to look like?
Ding, ding,
right?
ding, ding, ding.
Like, are you clear on that? I know on many of our episodes, we talked about like defining your done success and what that looks like. So when you're here listening to this every Thursday, are you asking yourself, like, what does my unleashed and unstoppable life get to look like in all areas of my life, and who I get to be? And when I come here every week on Thursdays to listen to the new episode, like, what am I leaning into to shift and change and level up my leadership and the impact I'm creating and driving and not driving, but like, making making the decisions, taking the action to create that result. So Carol, I know you were at an amazing event this past weekend, and I'd love for us to uncover and dive into what's landed for you. You shared a little bit earlier on another interview we conducted about what one of the messages. And I'd love for us to unpack that a little bit for our listener audience. We're at our 2-year episode, and we're so thrilled. Like, I can't believe 2 years. It's been 2 years.
I know.
On this journey. And I know we'll unpack a little bit today of, like, again, going back to why we started this, right? Because why we do what we do drives why we do it. And so that's what drives Carol and I each and every week when we're here with you, and to share some of the things that you took away and tying in again, why we're here, about being unleashed and unstoppable, and how we continuously show up and be a stand for you in your leadership, in your life, with everything you create.
I would love to share some takeaways from this past week. It was for Build Your Brand Live, and it was the last one. Was held in Atlanta. 2024 is where we are right now, and we're here at our 2-year anniversary, as you said. And there were so many takeaways, but one of the things that I was just sharing is that Jesse Isler spoke live. This is Sarah Blakely's husband. And Sarah and Jesse are each billionaires in their own right. And out of all of the chances for us to become billionaires, which is really a very slim chance statistically, the wisdom was just something that I was absorbing and leaning into with every fiber of my being. And he shared a story about a last man standing race that he ran, where he had a glass ceiling. And if you've been following us for any amount of time, you know that we talk about our glass ceilings in all areas. And particularly for me, what's your glass ceiling in wealth? What's that number that you hit that you just can't get beyond, right? And so it was particularly interesting to hear him use the phrase glass ceiling. And he was getting to the point where he could run 38 miles. Now, in this last man standing race, you keep running until you're the last man standing. So there is technically no end. And it's whoever makes it to the very end and is the last man standing. So he was having a block between running more than 38 miles. Well, a marathon is 24. 38 miles is significant for the majority of us, especially if you're not a runner. And he ended up hiring a former Navy SEAL. He even has a book to that effect. I recommend you go get it. And the former Navy SEAL ran with him and walked him through the mental blocks. And one of the things was he was let's see, I'm trying to remember the name. I just got back and I should know the name of this Navy SEAL. I will get this and make sure it's in the show notes. This man that was a former Navy SEAL ran with him and he said, "You must follow all my instructions." And Jesse agreed. And he said, "The first thing is anytime I ask you, how are you? You respond with outstanding." As our spoken word is a huge part of our journey and the power that we have. And especially from a neuroscience perspective, the vocal centers are a power center in the brain. So Jesse then asked us, the audience, over and over again, repeating it. How are you? How are you? How are you? No, I can't hear you. How are you? And each time we were to respond outstanding. Now, and this race, when it's the last man standing, you've come to your ceiling of 38 miles and you don't know how much farther it's going to go. And you're believing you cannot go any farther. But the new answer is, how are you? Outstanding. Period. End of story. There is no other answer. And he had a second point. The third point I want to dive into was he said, "We are going to run." Now, he's now past the 38 miles in the race. And this former Navy SEAL is running with him, alongside of him. And he said, "We are going to go to the next station where get your fluids and check in. And we are going to tell them, we never tire. We do not tire. We never tire." So, and you can begin to repeat in your own mind for your own RAS, your own reticular activating system. I have energy. I am energetic. I never tire, right? The RAS doesn't hear the word don't. So if you're saying I'm or not, if you're saying I'm not tired, you may end up wiring in that you are tired. So I want to bring that point out and tell you, though, that you can definitively declare your next up level, your next goal and vision, which is what they were doing. We never tire. And so throughout the rest of the race, the former Navy SEAL continued to ask Jesse the questions. Jesse Itzler continued to answer, "How are you? Outstanding." And we never tire, right? So at the end of the race, Jesse won the race. He was the last man standing, lost all of his toenails, was in a wheelchair. He ran 100 miles. 100 miles. We don't know what we're capable of.
Wow.
We have no idea what we're capable of. And I'm not recommending that you need to go out and do that. That was a part of his journey and his vision and something specific for him. But what I am saying is that was a powerful story and illustration of what is possible when we train our brains and we move forward with those visions and dreams that we have. And I have a whole other wonderful story about that too. This was really good.
It drives home several things that we have said multiple times. I mean, one, what we focus on grows.
Yeah.
So we focus on, right? We know that energy is a choice. And
Yeah.
we constantly choose that we are unstoppable, right? That we're unleashed unstoppable, and we clear what that is, and that we continue to use the language that is in line with the vision and what we're creating. We
Yeah.
get to create that because our thoughts create our reality, and you're the creator of your thoughts. And so I love this story, and it really ties into like why we started doing this. Why
Mm.
Caroline started doing this is because one, this isn't taught in schools, right?
Yeah.
So like the educator in me is like, this isn't taught in schools. And so
Yeah.
because it's not,
That was
this
my
is
chair.
not necessarily regular education that you and I are receiving. And so we
Yeah.
take a stand in wanting to get this information and the transformation out to as many,
Mm.
especially women and men, as
Yeah.
possible, to empower you, to get you back on the driver's
Yeah.
seat, to put you back into control of your life and of your results, because it's so easy in society to be easily dictated by your surroundings, by what people are saying, by what's on the media, by all of the things outside of you, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately, like, you have a choice, right?
Mm.
You're either in the driver's seat or you're letting someone else drive your car. And so you have that choice. Like, we're providing you with the tools and the knowledge, the understanding of, one, how your brain works. And this story is a beautiful example. It was actually
Yeah.
bringing me back to, I don't remember the times, it was some football video, and when the there was a linebacker got blindfolded and people were on his back, and he like ended up running the whole entire field. Like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, right? Once, right, because the blindfold was on, there was no the the football player didn't see the obstacles, right? It was just the mind game, and being encouraged and having the positivity and that
Yeah.
mental stamina encouragement just kept on going. And so it's so fascinating when we're seeing it, how our brains can start to play tricks on us, and you can have your reticular activating system work for you and also
Yeah.
against you. And so it's I mean, and there's multiple examples out there of
Yeah.
power the power of the brain, the neuroplasticity around what is truly possible when you make a declaration, when you set that intention,
Yeah.
and all about the language that you use to drive those results in what you're
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And just what you're leaning into, putting our brains to work for us. And you mentioned the why, and the why is so powerful. One of the other speakers that I was honored to hear live was Jamie Kern Lima. Very much resonate with the work she's doing. She just released her book Worthy. Highly recommend that. In fact, I'm on her book launch team, because she really differentiates between self-confidence and worthiness. And this is something that Alex, you and I both teach inside of our programs, working with our clients, is this identity piece, this piece about being versus the mechanics. And, what you started off with, how do you define success for yourself? What does that look like? She spoke a lot about the why, alongside what she usually teaches, and she talks a lot about the resilience, how to keep going when you're getting all the no's and the obstacles. And they had gotten into a lot of debt and thought they were going to go bankrupt, and went up through this incredible challenge. I'm not going to share it. I want you to go listen to this on your own. But it was really important reminder that, our why is our fuel. Our why is one of the reasons that we want to have vision and clarity when we are wanting to do something. And it's so powerful and important, the vision, because the vision activates our brain. Our brain's always working for us. It's like that saying, if you're still making a decision if you don't decide. And I think John Lennon really brought that home, right? And then former member of the Beatles. And or a member of the Beatles. I don't think he ever was. Technically, the Beatles are the Beatles, right? And if we don't make a decision, we're still choosing to decide. And having a defined vision really puts your brain to work for you. And one of the other speakers we heard, speaking of takeaways, was Trent Shelton. He's a former NFL star, and he gave 5 very clear points, illustrated each of them with a story. First one was about vision, and his analogy was amazing. Trent shared with us that we are to we when we look at our visions, it's like a pair of prescription glasses. Our vision is whispered into our hearts uniquely for our reason for being here on this planet. And he said, if I try to look through your prescription glasses, they're custom designed for you. They're not for me. I won't see them clearly. You're the one who sees your vision clearly. Even when nobody around you supports it or understands it, you can know that that's your pair of prescription glasses. That is meant for you. It's designed for you. Nobody else is going to see it as clearly as you do. And it doesn't mean we're to do it alone. That's not it at all. It's not about nobody gets to the top alone. It's not about the inability to share your vision or to help enroll people along the way. Those are important pieces. But it is specifically addressing when someone doesn't understand your vision or isn't walking in it with you, or your own doubt of your vision, to recall that that's your pair of prescription glasses, custom designed for you. That whisper is in your heart for a specific reason to impact those who are meant to hear from you uniquely. And we talk about that, Alex. We talk about letting your voice be heard and standing in your identity, right? So that was really
Well,
beautiful as well.
and it's the authenticity, right? Like
Yeah.
authenticity becomes such a huge thing in leadership. When I look at defining bold in the irresistible leader, right? It starts with the beingness, right? And then it's
Mhm.
about being outrageous, originally connected to your vision, what's important to you. Then it's about being loving, authentic, intimate,
Yeah.
that feminine side of who you are, having that femininity. And
Yeah.
then the daring piece, the risk taker, that's where the masculinity comes in, right? The action and the results and putting yourself out there and really being committed to what that vision is.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
so easy to get lost. It's so easy to, especially with our brains, knowing with the negativity bias and the way it's programmed and your past and the role that it plays, and especially your brain trying to keep you safe,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
connected on that emotional level of the vision. And when it's so clear, it's so much easier to take action on that and then
Yeah.
be connected to it. Like when you are fully, when you embody that vision, right? It's not just the brain piece and the mental piece and the psychological assessment, the mechanical pieces. It's like, no, you feel it and you feel into it. And then
Yeah.
I know, Cal, you've talked about the quantum physics, and we've brought in that a little bit in terms of the energy piece, but
Yeah.
you float. I always think it's like floating literally like on a different level because
Yeah.
you feel it and you know when you're in alignment. And then it's so much easier to take this aligned action because you have clarity on what it is that you want. And
Yeah.
when you're so enrolled in your vision and you're so clear, like as we said earlier, like what does being unleashed and unstoppable look like? What's your unleashed and unstoppable life? You
Yeah.
have clarity on that. That's going to support you in how you show up and who you be, in the decisions you make, in the actions you take, and the results that you do generate. And it does become a bit of a generation because you're activating your brain, you're activating your reticular activating system. You're living in alignment, right? You're not walking around with this cognitive dissonance. I like to call it the teeter totter, right? You're up and down and up and down. You're
Yeah.
feeling this, right? You're working with your brain. You're having your brain work for you,
Mm.
removing the resistance and really making it easier. Someone said to me the other week, like, it's time to hit the easy button.
Yeah.
It's time to hit the easy button. Our
Yeah.
brains like to overcomplicate things, right? Our
Yeah.
brains like to keep us safe.
It's
Our
another form
brains,
of brain safety. Yeah.
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 So it's time to hit the easy button, listener. It's time to hit the easy button.
I am so with you. I'm with you. We're on this journey with you, and I think it's so powerful, to recognize these things. It's having the awareness is very helpful, and it's only the first step in our programs. But honestly, it's not just about removing limiting beliefs. It's about wiring in who you truly are, and that you are deserving, you are valuable, you are worthy, and operating from that place. And all of the examples that we hear, right, Alex, with those we work with, as well as our own stories, in that when you start to operate in that place as that person, uh, that's reached the vision that you desire to reach and the goal that you desire to reach, it's when things start coming to you. It's when you start to attract those things, because it's drawn to you like a magnet. And we are very much energy, right? And that,
Mm.
thank you, Einstein, for that. This is not new science. This is something that's been around for a while, that, mass is just the way we visualize or experience this type of energy. And now we know so much more with things, everything existing in wave form in this limitless universe, and becoming a particle when it materializes in our world. And so, knowing how our brain works and how science works, and being able to really practice these success clues. But it's, to me, it's deeper in that way, in that it's truly, to me, about love, and
Mm.
about that love being the truth of who we really are, and everything we're going through here being a journey of increased leadership, because there isn't anybody who arrives on this planet who isn't valuable and isn't a leader. It's just somewhere along the way we either step into that or we reject it, and begin to suffer consequences from not being able to walk in the vision of who we truly are, and our worth and identity and purpose. So it's high level, right? When you start to think in these ways, and it's only going to increase from here. So,
And it's simple, right? And that's the thing. It's actually quite simple when you think about it.
yeah,
And it requires dedication. It does require commitment, right? It
yeah.
requires the willingness to take risks,
Mm-hmm.
to put yourself out there,
Yeah,
to be vulnerable,
yeah.
to not, well, it's right. There's something that often, when I'm thinking about just being in the leadership room and being around
Yeah.
leaders, and it's declaring every day, like, this is what I'm committed to creating, right? And looking at the beingness of who you get
Mm-hmm.
to be, and of course the mechanical pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm committed to creating, and here's some of the prices I'm willing to pay, not
Yeah.
in a negative way. And I still am kind of working on, like, a different way to say that.
Yeah.
And but it's leaning into that, right? So if this is my vision, this is the intention, this is what I'm out there creating, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to get uncomfortable, right? I'm willing to get it wrong. I'm
Yeah.
willing to be judged. I'm willing to not look good, because those are oftentimes the things that hold us back, right? Our
Right.
brain is wired to keep us in the safe and familiar. And so our brain wants to play it safe. Our brain wants to be loved, right?
Yeah.
I say our brain, and we want to be loved. We
Right.
want to be accepted. We want to feel good enough. We want to feel
Yeah.
that we're worthy. We want to feel all these things. And so the thought of putting ourselves in a situation where we're not going to feel that and experience that, right, is going to keep us safe. When
Yeah.
we can declare, when we can lean into, and just by saying, like, here's what I'm a price I'm willing to pay,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're going to pay it. Right.
Right.
Like, and I've had that conversation before too, but like, well, I don't want to be judged. Well, if you're willing to put yourself out there with the possibility that might happen, it might happen and it might not happen,
Yeah.
but at least you've set that intention that, okay, it could happen and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to move through it so much
Yeah.
more easily, sorry, because your intention, your vision, your mission, whatever it is that you're out there to create is stronger than the desire to
Yes.
not be liked and things like
and
that, right?
and that's what carries us forward in our commitment too. I
Mhm.
in thinking about, I know, a few years back, if you had asked me what prices are you willing to pay, I would have seen that as a very negative thing.
Mhm.
Where now what I see is prices that we can be willing to pay and that I am willing to pay are from a place of abundance, that
Mhm.
they're actually things that I am willing to let go of, and it's been that brain safety, like you say, but the doubt, the fear. Now, fear may never disappear. It may always be alongside us because there is something about this life that does require courage. We've seen that forever throughout history. But the thing is that, looking at what I'm willing to pay is shoving off the overwhelm, the complication, the procrastination, being able to say, no, my vision is higher, then I'm going to let this stop me. And so I'm going to pay the price of being willing to let this go and be in abundance in the way that I am walking forward. I am going to choose to believe in this vision, even though the circumstances are not yet reflecting it. And that's when the attraction comes in. I have to share a story about what happened that illustrates this. So while I was at this conference in Atlanta, um, it was really crowded and I had lost Wi Fi and ended up not finding my Uber driver. Well, he was patient and he waited, and the conference center staff was able to locate him for me and bring him. They were amazing. It was the Omni Hotel in Atlanta. And so we get on the drive, and I start to tell him that I've just heard Trent Shelton speak, who I mentioned earlier, and that I'm bawling my eyes out, and shared with him about the vision and about it, being our unique prescription glasses that Trent shared with us. And I said, what are your visions and your dreams? And he kind of leaned back in his chair at a light. He kind of slumped down and he said, nobody has asked me that in a very long time. I don't know. And I said, I was supposed to ride with you today. And so then as we continued our conversation, as he dropped me off, I was in a rush, grabbed my bag and my purse, and I left my phone in the car. Okay, well, this is our brains that we're carrying around with us. My computer had crashed. It's like everything's on here. So it was definitely a moment where I was fighting the panic, the knot in my stomach. Oh no, what am I going to do? And went in and was able to lock the phone on my roommate's computer and contact this driver through Uber. Well, here was the cool thing. When I contacted him, out of all his 40 or 50 passengers that he may have picked up that day, he was going to be able to remember me easily because I was able to reference our conversation about Trent Shelton. So that was one thing. And then I didn't hear from him, didn't hear from him. So through the night, I began to visualize exactly where I was going to pick the phone up at. I began to give thanks for picking up the phone, having gratitude for the phone, for the things on it. And I was also considering the possibilities of, if maybe a passenger would have gotten in, and what my other solutions are. Brains go to solution. And for me personally, I was also praising and thanking God in this process because that's part of my tools. And I was practicing breathing to reset my nervous system. And so I was like, all right, I'm using all of my tools right now. So in the morning when I got up, got a call from the Uber driver. He says, I have your phone. I'm taking it to the concierge desk at the conference center. So I get a ride to the conference center, get there. They handed me my phone in the exact location I had visualized receiving it at.
Wow.
Exact spot. This is a massive property. And not only that, I said, what can I do for you? This is so important. And thank you so much. And he said, it was the conversation that did everything for me.
Mm.
So I just want you to know your visions are powerful. They enact things in your life. Your brain will start to work for you. And so don't give up on those dreams and those goals. Get clear on what those are so that you can be unleashed and unstoppable.
And I think what's really important too is really take that time to connect on
Yeah.
also the emotional side as well. Like, here's my dream and this is how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
This is why this lights me up.
Mm.
This is, it's like why we're here. We're
Yeah.
here, we're lit up because we have access to a lot of tools that we want to share with you because we feel that just not enough people know about this.
Yeah.
And just such little things can completely shift the way you start your day, the way you end your day, the way you interact with others, your
Yeah.
relationships, how you are at work, how you are with your family, with your friends, your loved ones. It completely can shift your trajectory of where you live, where you travel, the
Yeah.
conversations you're having, the people you have in your lives. We know that something so simple of being intimate with your brain and what's going on can completely change how you go about your day, how you feel,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
what you get to experience. I know
Yeah.
we've shared, I think, in a couple of episodes about one of the exercises that I've done in a workshop and also with clients about writing a letter from your 86-year-old self to today.
Mm. That's right.
What
Yeah.
truly is important for you in that moment when you look back from
Yeah.
your years between now and 86 and let's just say at 100, right? Like between now and you being
Yeah.
100, like what are those moments when you're at 100 years old that you look back on that really made the difference? Where are you spending your time? How are you spending the time? Who are you spending your time with? And and I would say myself, I know how perspective has shifted.
Mm.
Perspective has shifted
Yeah.
because of realizing what truly is important
Yeah.
and where we get to spend our time.
Mm.
And that really 100% is possible 100% of the time, right? We
Yeah.
are in the driver's seat of our lives and we get really clear on what's important to us. When we start to live out our vision, that's for like our vision, right? Not somebody else's vision and not someone else's expectation, but our
Yeah.
own, and get really clear on in different areas of your life of what's important.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of times in conversations, there's a lot of letdown, there's a lot of disappointment, there's a lot of, you could say, sadness and even anger and frustration.
Yeah.
And what I notice, what's on the other side of that is unmet expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
when being
yeah.
curious on, okay, well, what's being unmet is that there's
Mm.
not necessarily clarity on what the
Yeah.
expectation even is, like there's something missing, but getting clear on what is missing. And then who do you get to be as the leader in your life to then shift that and to
Yeah.
create that? We had Michael Strasmer on it several weeks ago, right? One of our
Yeah.
mentors
For
who I get to,
100th episode. Yeah. Yeah.
and I get to spend a lot of time in the training room with him. And he shared this. And I've heard multiple other in leadership and other trainers share this about transformation is an inside job.
Yes. Yeah.
Transformation is an inside job, right? And you're one thought away from your biggest breakthrough. You're
Yes.
one thought away from the next decision. You're one thought away from your
Yeah.
next action, from your next result, from the next thing that you get to create. So take a moment to really connect with that.
Mm.
Take a moment to visualize that Carol's saying. Take a moment in every moment, in every situation
Yeah.
to pause. There's so much power in the pause to really check in with yourself, right? Like, how are you making your decisions, and where's everything coming from? Are you living on autopilot, right? Are you on the mundane train of just living day in
Right.
and day out? Or are you in control? And if you're not in control, take a look at what's going on that you feel out of control. Where do you
Yeah.
get to step up, step in to be back in control? And what is going on in your brain? What is going on in autopilot? And what are some decisions that you get to make? Like, where do you get more intimate with your priorities? And
Yeah.
where do you get to bring in more joy and more laughter and more fun to really live this fulfilled life, right?
Yeah.
I've always have to say, we got one life to live, let's live it to the fullest. If you
Yeah.
don't feel you're living that right now, this is a beautiful moment to even re-listen to this episode and
Yeah.
take a look at, okay, where do I get to go? Where do I get to shift? And know that
Right.
you don't have to do this by yourself.
I think, to what you're saying and speaking to, I know on my own journey, the hardest piece of that, of living from a place of joy and celebration, I can set the goal, I can set the
Mhm.
vision, and I can experience the imposter syndrome too, the lack of feeling worthy. But because of the internal work I've done, I know that I'm worthy. I believe
Mhm.
that. And that's a powerful place to be. And yet I can get into seriousness and responsibility where I end up limiting myself. It's even more
Mhm.
brain safety. We do want to be responsible beings. We want to be committed. We want to take the action steps. But specifically talking about the joy, the ease, the playfulness, that one for me has been such a challenge where more often I'm getting the message to that there are specific times where
Mhm.
I am to sit still. I am to listen. I am to so it's always a both and, right? An and of taking the action steps, but there's that and of trust and surrender, which for me has when I haven't chosen to do that, it has severely limited my joy and my peace, and honestly, my ability to put my oxygen mask on and
Mhm.
to love others. And if I'm sitting passed out in the seat, who am I going to serve? How am I going to help anybody? And it's got to be this journey of learning that I've been through that's very powerful, where it's just like, this is the time just to sit still and let the creativity come in, let the joy come in. And all of a sudden, things just tend to mushroom and to explode every single time I do that. And yet, I'm still working with my brain patterns in experiencing that fully. So I also can get into a lot of self beat up about my failures, about looking back and analyzing my decisions and go, oh, if only I'd done this. Oh, wish I'd done that. I could have done this better. And there is a healthy analysis that we can go through, but this is not it. This is, if you're experiencing this, I want you to really hear me right now, that you can just put the oxygen mask on. You can be free to move forward, to have those first attempts in learning and rejoice in those and in those breakdowns on your journey, and know that you are now that much more prepared for being at that level where you want to be. And it's a huge mindset shift, but it's so powerful and important so that we can really create mentally and emotionally and physically the things that are our unique prescription glasses.
There's two things that are coming out to me, Carol, as we wrap up here. As you're talking, I'm thinking a lot about when there's no finish line. And I'm going back to the last man standing. Like there
Right.
really is no finish line. Like
Yeah.
life is a journey,
Yeah.
and even in the race, even the last man standing, there are rest stops along the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
remember to take that time to rest, to fill your cup up, to fill your bucket,
Yeah.
to enjoy the process and the journey because,
Mm,
yeah, there may not be
okay.
no finish line, but there's still definitely rest stops along the way. And
Mm,
so embrace those rest stops, fuel yourself,
yeah.
take or not take, but like create what you get to create for you to have the oxygen mask on first.
Mm,
And again, it's that authenticity piece of like being connected with what lights you up, right? What
yeah.
brings you joy? What makes you happy? What do you enjoy doing?
Mm,
And it could be for a moment, it could be, a longer adventure, but just really when you're defining the done success, the only unstoppable life for you, you just get curious in that.
yeah.
And what does it look like to create that now? Because so often we look
Yeah.
ahead and like, okay, well, I'm going to finish this, I'm going to do that. Life is now, life's
Yeah.
going to keep happening. So
Mm,
how can you already start to integrate and create that even now, maybe not a grand scheme, but a
yeah.
little bit here and there every single day, and to give yourself grace and to embrace the process and to continue to look forward, right? We don't want to spend time looking at the rearview mirror, right, in the car.
Yeah.
We want to keep our eyes ahead where we're going, right? And
Yeah.
just embrace that journey, that destination, and release that self-criticism. And I mean, very guilty. It's been work I've been at for the last couple of years
Yeah.
of being in the moment and being okay where I am now. And sure, we have those moments of like, oh, if I only, right? And that all of the things happen to bring you to where you are today.
That's right. That's right. And you may have voices around you from well-meaning colleagues, friends, family members, who are wanting to guide you and help you, but unintentionally they may be reminding you of the way that they see you.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see you here where you're at, and you get to walk into that and believing that, when those voices are coming up in your head. And a big part of that is being present and is being, forward focused, knowing that every part of our past, our failures, our obstacles are meant for us to be here. And, that's the part that's so important so that we can lean in and relax and have joy. And Alex and I love bringing you this information. We absolutely enjoy it. It's our passion, our mission to impact your lives and let you know that you're way more powerful than you think you are. We all are. And as we start to step into that, it just expands and gets to higher and higher levels. I know that's what I'm experiencing in my life. And I believe you are as well, Alex Leanne. And we're just seeing our journey and looking back even a year ago and going, wow, I've gained so much in this year, and seeing our clients explode through the roof. We just had on Marissa Nelson, and what a fabulous client she's been, and working with people that are also on the journey of transformation and with our mentors. Alex Leanne, I just want to ask you, what are our top 5 most downloaded episodes, and what's your favorite episode?
Okay, I gotta find that. There we go. Okay, so that's a great question. And I love this question because this, you know, when we look at the top 5, it definitely supports us in knowing like what really lands for you, what people are searching, and also an invitation to let us know what you want to
Yeah.
hear more of, what you want to uncover. Because many of these episodes actually were recorded a few years ago. And as Carol says, like we're always evolving and changing. And
Yeah.
so our
Two
top
year 2 years
2
ago to
years.
be
Oh my goodness.
exact.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 years ago. So you can tell it like it's gone by so quickly. So our top 5 episodes in the past, well, since we started this podcast, 4, 5 is so our number 5 is the 3 roots at the source of your limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I
Number
love
4
that
is
one.
how to define who you really are.
Mm.
Number three is reclaiming your voice, how to speak up and be heard in any situation.
Yeah.
Number two is how to get unstuck and out of your own way. And number one is the truth about clutter with one of our guests, Mel Mason, the
Yeah.
clutter expert.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, these the I it's hard for me to pick a favorite too because I look back at our episodes and I'm like I like aspects of each and every one. And I think one of the things that have loved is I feel like our beginning intro was it's definitely improved and will continue to improve. That's been a fun piece for me. Anything, using your voice. And of course, I've enjoyed very much bringing in some of the pieces on wealth as well. What about you, Alex? Do you have a particular favorite?
I think one of the episodes that we recorded not too long ago, which was about, you know, is it possible leading to commitment over comfort, like that leadership focus? That
Yeah.
was a massive aha moment for me back in, I believe it was January. And so recording that episode was so much fun. And once I realized that, I mean, things have completely shifted for me for the last several months, actually. And I think just one of the themes that we've often brought up, and we have done an episode on this, which was really just about the wealth piece and being intimate with your results. And actually, that was a very recent episode that we did. And just sharing that and the practical application of what that looks like in our life. And so that went live not too long ago. And that just listening to that and the practical application of tying in, right, the result, tying in the vision, tying in the intention, tying in the principle of folk, right, really being intimate and what you measure and report goes exponentially, right, which is something
Yeah.
that Carol, you taught me so long ago. And it just has such this impact in so many different areas of our lives. And when you take that concept and tie it into our brain primes, which is something we teach our clients,
Yeah.
and I'm just seeing it like unfold unbelievably over the last several months. And so
Right.
I would say that that's probably one of those two episodes right there are really top of mind, and
Yeah.
loving the fact that we get to revisit some concepts, over the past couple of years. And that's why we're here for you, listener. We're
Yeah.
here to serve you and support you and helping you get unstuck and out of your own way, right? So you can be unleashed and unstoppable in every area of your life, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can
Hmm.
experience one little shift, one little action step, one little aha moment each and every time you listen to our episode every
Yeah.
Thursday, then
That's huge. Yeah.
that's huge. And that's what we're here for. And so connect with us on socials, subscribe, share this
Sure.
podcast with your friends, your family, everyone you meet, because we really are here to make an impact
Yeah.
and really bring this knowledge and this information to as many people as we possibly can to completely shift the future, the world for,
Yeah.
our children, the next generation, because when you have this understanding and knowledge of how your brain works,
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot right now. I'm learning a lot of children's brain books to understand, like, my daughters and their development. But it's
Yeah.
fascinating to realize, again, right, if
It's,
understanding and knowing this, of shaping that next generation, of shaping the
yeah.
brain, the minds of those, it's
It's
unbelievable
powerful.
how it can, yeah, it's so powerful to support those we love. And even as adults, because our brain is it's the neuroplasticity of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like a piece of Play-Doh that you can mold and fold, and that's what's so powerful.
I
And
mean,
having that
just
tools, like,
look at that example of Jesse running 100 miles. Look at
yeah,
the example of the Wright brothers. They
yeah,
literally had a dream for their bicycles to fly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for not only having that dream, that vision, but then enacting it. Henry Ford wanting to make transportation readily available for everybody. And I've heard the story that they put a bunch of engineers in a room and they all said this can't be done yet. And He said, figure it out. Same kind of story with Steve Jobs. And now we have these amazing little computers in our hands. What you desire to create in your life is possible. And we're so used to limiting ourselves and thinking small. That's why we're here bringing this to you so that you too can know exactly how you can be unleashed and unstoppable. And I love our recent episode on shifting the mindset. That's my favorite. And then you were referring to the one about how you can increase your wealth in 15 minutes a day with something called Pearson's Law, one of the principles of wealth that I teach. And it's literally that what you measure grows, what you measure and report grows exponentially. And you're practicing that now, Alex, as are my clients, and starting to see the results of what happens when we're intimate with our numbers, when we're intimate with our results, which you mentioned that episode. So I'm just so thankful for you, so thankful that we're doing this together. We're entering our third year now. We've got well over 100 episodes, and we have so much more to bring you, so much more to bring you. So invite you to dive in, binge listen, let us know what you want to hear. We're happy to talk about it. We'll be bringing you amazing guest experts. And yeah, thank you, Alex, Leanne. Celebrating.
Thank you, Carol, for being on this journey with me. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. Of course, another episode, but also tuning in each and every week on Thursdays where we release our episode. So until next week, bye.
Bye. Ciao for now.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.